In the blink of an eye, the pillar of your world can crumble into ash. You know the story. Nolan Grayson, the alien powerhouse Omni-Man, playing the part of loving husband and father while hiding his true Viltrumite purpose. You know the son, Mark, who would one day become the hero Invincible. But what if the mask slipped too soon? What if one moment of uncontrolled Viltrumite fury ended Debbie Grayson's life, leaving 6-year-old Mark to watch his mother die and his father flee in shame? What if the trauma awakened something terrible, and the Global Defense Agency's mastermind became the only father the boy would ever know? Now 17 years old and forged into a weapon far deadlier than canon ever allowed, Mark Grayson doesn't fight for truth or Viltrum. He fights because he was trained to. This is that story.
There's a sound a house makes when it dies. Not the crash, not the boom. The silence after. The kind of silence that screams. We're about to hear that silence. But first, you need to understand something. This isn't a fight. This is a fracture. A crack in reality itself. The kitchen tiles vibrate. Nolan paces. 6'2" of Viltrumite muscle contained in a space too small for his guilt. His black hair, usually so neat, so controlled, stands disheveled. His fair skin is flushed. Those piercing blue eyes, they flicker between the woman he loves and the empire he serves. Debbie doesn't back down. She never has. Korean, fierce. Her mid-back length black hair pulled tight in that bun. Her brown eyes unflinching even as her husband trembles with suppressed power. You can't have both, she says, voice steady. You can't be their hero and destroy their world. I don't have a choice. The words tear from Nolan's throat. Don't you understand? If I don't complete the mission, then don't complete it. She steps closer, into his space, into the danger zone. Choose us. Choose Earth. Choose your son. He's supposed to be Earth's greatest protector, the gold standard. But right now, he's just Nolan Grayson, a man torn in half by his own DNA. Debbie, he whispers, I love you. I know, she says. So stay. His hand moves, faster than thought, faster than regret. Viltrumite speed unleashed in a suburban kitchen. It connects once. That's all it takes. The sound is whipped and final, meat and bone. Debbie doesn't even gasp. She just stops. Mid-sentence. Her slim athletic frame crumples like paper. The bun unravels. Blood pools beneath her on the tile. Nolan stares at his hand, trembling, covered in red. What did I do? He breathes. The bedroom door creaks. Mark Grayson, 6 years old, fair skin, black hair with that distinctive widow's peak already showing. Rocket ship pajamas. He sees the body first. His brain rejects it. Then he sees Nolan, covered in blood, standing over his mother. Dad? Something breaks, deep in Mark's chest, a dam holding back an ocean of Viltrumite potential. The trauma doesn't just hurt him, it unlocks him. The scream starts small, then grows, then it shatters reality. Mark's feet leave the ground, his eyes go white, not just white, but incandescent, blazing, pure Viltrumite energy erupting 6 years too early. Trauma has no schedule, no rules, only power. The windows explode outward in a perfect sphere of concussive force. Glass becomes shrapnel. The walls crack, deep fissures racing from floor to ceiling like lightning frozen in concrete. Nolan throws up an arm. Mark! Too late. Mark spins, his arms flail, and the house tears itself apart from the inside out. Beams snap like twigs. The roof launches into the night sky. Furniture atomizes into dust. This isn't a tantrum. This is a supernova wrapped in a child's body. Emotional amplification in its purest form, pain translated into devastation. He comes down screaming. The foundation cracks. A crater forms, 10 feet deep, 20. Mark lands in the center, kneeling, surrounded by a mushroom cloud of plaster and broken wood. Silence. Nolan pushes through the rubble. His son sits in the crater, catatonic, dust in his black hair, tears cutting tracks through the debris on his fair cheeks. He doesn't blink. Doesn't breathe. He's gone somewhere trauma can't follow, somewhere deep. Nolan reaches out, stops. What words exist for this? What apology fixes a dead mother and a broken child? He looks at Debbie, buried under drywall and beams, dead by his hand. He looks at Mark, shattered by his violence. He runs, not through the door, through the ceiling, through the sky. He punches through the atmosphere so hard he leaves a vacuum trail, into the black, into the stars, away from his sins, away from Earth. Black sedans, men in suits. The Global Defense Agency doesn't send ambulances, they send extraction teams. Cecil Stedman steps from the lead vehicle, silver hair catching the emergency lights. That distinctive scar across his left jaw, a roadmap of old battles. Black suit crisp, red tie straight, US flag pin gleaming. He surveys the crater, the ruins, the impossible destruction. One biological signature, an agent reports. Child, non-responsive. Vitals are elevated. Cecil walks through the ash. Slow, measured, every step deliberate. His brown shoes crunch on broken glass. He finds Mark in the center of the impact zone, 6 years old, kneeling, staring at nothing. The boy's chest barely moves. His brown eyes are open, but nobody's home. Cecil kneels, ignoring the dirt, ignoring the blood, eye level with the broken child. Mark, he says, voice like gravel wrapped in velvet. My name is Cecil. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. Nothing. No reaction. Cecil reaches out, gently lifts the boy, cradles him against his chest. The child weighs nothing. Feels like broken glass wrapped in skin. He's my responsibility now, Cecil says to the assembled agents. Not a question. A declaration. My son. My asset. You clear? They clear it. The facility is underground, 300 feet of concrete and steel between Mark Grayson and the world that hurt him. Cecil stands in the observation room, watching the boy through reinforced glass. Mark sits on a medical bed, not moving, not speaking, but Cecil sees it, the potential, the power, the way the air hums around him. 11 years. That's what he has. 11 years of training, of GDA technology, of turning this broken child into Earth's ultimate shield. Because Nolan Grayson is out there, somewhere in the stars, and when he returns, he won't find a scared little boy. He'll find something unstoppable. 11 years. Let that sink in. 11 years since Cecil Stedman pulled a shattered 6-year-old boy from that smoking crater in the suburbs. 11 years since Nolan Grayson abandoned Earth, fleeing into the void with blood on his hands and guilt eating his Viltrumite soul. 11 years since Mark Grayson lost everything, his mother, his innocence, his humanity, and gained this. The Global Defense Agency didn't just raise a hero, they forged a weapon. And tonight you're seeing exactly what happens when you apply military discipline to a Viltrumite hybrid. The GDA sub-level training facility, 300 feet beneath solid rock, concrete walls thick enough to survive a nuclear blast, reinforced steel doors that could stop a tank, and in the center of the kill box, Mark Grayson, age 17, 6 feet of coiled destruction wrapped in black tactical gear. Not a civilian, not a student. Asset 01. The lights turn red. No warning, no bell, just 20 reanimen activating simultaneously around him. Cybernetic monstrosities, dead flesh fused with military-grade steel, enhanced strength that can crush concrete to powder. No fear, no hesitation, just programming, just targets. The first 3 charge. Mark doesn't waste breath on a battle cry. He moves, clinical, efficient, absolute. He intercepts the first reaniman mid-lunge, catching its throat in one hand. His fingers tighten. The neck snaps like dry wood. He uses the body as a shield against the second, feeling the impact of its metal fist against the corpse, then drives his knee through the second reaniman's chest plate. The armor dents, ribs collapse. The cyborg flies backward, smashing into the wall with enough force to spiderweb the reinforced concrete across 10 feet. The third grabs his shoulder from behind. Mark twists, just his torso. His elbow connects with the reaniman's temple. The skull fractures. The body drops. He doesn't even look at it. This isn't a fight. This is surgery. Violent, precise, devastating surgery. He weaves through the remaining 17, each movement calculated, every strike targeting specific kill zones: throat, spine, skull. He doesn't float like a superhero. He doesn't pose for cameras. He destroys, methodically, ruthlessly. A reanimant swings a metal pipe hard enough to shatter a human skull. Mark catches it, bends it in his grip like wet clay, then feeds it through the cyborg's chest, impaling it on its own weapon. Another lunges. Mark catches its wrist, breaks the arm backward at the elbow, then drives his palm through its jaw. The head rocks back. The lights go out. Cecil watches from the observation deck above. That distinctive scar across his left jaw catches the harsh fluorescent light. His silver hair lies flat against his balding scalp. He doesn't flinch as Mark tears through his expensive prototypes. He doesn't blink. As 17 becomes 10, becomes 5, becomes 0. He just observes, cataloging, calculating. Mark stands alone in the center of 20 disabled cyborgs. Smoke rises from broken joints. Hydraulic fluid pools at his feet in a spreading lake of black. He's not breathing hard. His tactical gear isn't even scuffed. He looks up at the observation glass, waiting, always waiting, ready for the next command. The elevator rises. Mark steps out, still radiating heat from the exertion, still smelling of ozone and hydraulic fluid. Cecil meets him in the corridor. Black suit, white shirt, red tie. Professional, cold. But there's something in his eyes. Pride, concern, the weight of 11 years of raising a weapon that could destroy continents. Guardians are down, Cecil says. No preamble, no good job, just facts. Flaxan incursion, downtown Chicago, portals active and expanding, half a mile wide and growing. Mark wipes blood from his knuckles. Not his, never his. Contained so far. The new Guardians are holding the perimeter, but they're losing ground, fast. Cecil hands Mark a tablet. The screen shows chaos. Sick green dimensional energy, swirling like a wound in reality. Flaxan shock troops pouring through in formation. Buildings burning, civilians screaming. The portal's unstable. We estimate 20 minutes before it expands beyond our ability to close it. After that, it consumes the city, then the state. Mark studies the footage. His expression doesn't change. But you can see the focus sharpening, the predator waking up behind those brown eyes. You want me to clean it up? I want you to end it, Cecil corrects. He places a hand on Mark's shoulder. The gesture is brief, almost awkward, but it carries 11 years of breakfasts eaten in silence at GDA cafeterias, of stitches sewn in infirmaries at 3 a.m, of a man who chose to stay when everyone else left. Listen to me. The Flaxans aren't like the Reanimen. They're organized. They're armed with dimensional tech that can phase through matter. And they're expecting guardians. Heroes. Mark looks up, meets Cecil's eyes. They won't be expecting me. Cecil almost smiles. Almost. No, they won't. The armor bay. This isn't the yellow and blue spandex you know from the comics. This isn't a costume for cameras. This is GDA tactical warfare gear. Matte black ceramic plates over Viltrumite tough skin. Carbon weave joints for full mobility. Integrated weapon systems humming with charged particles. The helmet seals with a hydraulic hiss. The visor glowing crimson red. No symbol on the chest. Just a designation stamped in white. Asset 01. But underneath, he's invincible. Mark steps into the launch tube. The glass seals around him. He gives Cecil one last nod through the transparent aluminum. Coordinates locked, Cecil says over the comm, his voice crackling with authority. Launch in 3, 2, 1. The acceleration hits like a freight train. The tube fires Mark skyward at Mach 3. The city blurs beneath him into lines of light. Clouds vaporize against his armor as he punches through the atmosphere, leaving a sonic boom that shatters windows in the GDA parking lot. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. He banks toward Chicago. The horizon tears open ahead. Sick green light spills across the night sky, painting the clouds alien colors. The Flaxan portal. A wound in reality. Alien war machines already spilling through. Tanks hovering on anti-gravity. Infantry in the thousands. An invasion force. Mark doesn't slow down. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't warn them. He just smiles behind that red visor. He descends like a meteor, like the wrath of a forgotten god. The armor systems scream as he hits terminal velocity. Targeting locks. Weapons hot. The air burns around him. The ground explodes beneath his landing. The shockwave shatters every window for 3 blocks. Craters the asphalt. Flaxan soldiers stumble, thrown off their feet by the impact, their advanced weapons clattering against the pavement. Invincible rises from the smoke, tactical armor gleaming black in the alien light, eyes burning behind that crimson visor. He surveys the army before him, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. He cracks his neck, once, twice. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He unleashes, and you know what happens next? Total annihilation. But wait, here's the thing. The Flaxans didn't come alone. And what Invincible finds waiting inside that portal? It changes everything. Drop a comment right now. How many Flaxans do you think he takes down before they even know what hit them? And if you're not subscribed yet, you're going to want to be for what comes next. Smash that like button if you got chills from that launch sequence. He'll find something unstoppable. The sky over Chicago doesn't just darken. It ruptures. A jagged tear, sickly green, vomiting lightning and alien steel. Flaxans pour through, 7 feet tall, antennae twitching, weapons already hot. And below, screams, fire, the end of a normal Tuesday. But then, he arrives. The sonic boom hits before the silhouette registers. Concrete explodes outward in a spiderweb crater. Asset 01 doesn't land. He impacts. 17 years old, black tactical gear, no cape, no colors, just the GDA insignia on his shoulder, and blood already drying on his knuckles. Around him, the old guard is struggling. A blur of red cuts through the smoke. Red Rush, Russian speedster, glass visors, suits screaming with Cyrillic initials. He's evacuating civilians by the dozen, carrying them at supersonic speeds, but the Flaxans keep coming. Water erupts from a busted hydrant, twisting into a sledgehammer. King Aquarius, blue skin, gills, fins snapping taut. He crushes a Flaxan against a bus, but 3 more take its place. Green Ghost phases through a building. Alana, dreadlocks in her civilian form, but right now she's pure emerald energy, intangible, pulling children through solid concrete to safety. Martian Man stretches like taffy, olive skin, rectangular head, yellow eyes, wrapping elastic limbs around aliens and squeezing. Black Samson arcs electricity from his fists, cornrows whipping, disc armor sparking as he throws 20-ton punches into the invaders. From the shadows, Darkwing descends, tall, lack mask, grey chestplate, cape snapping like a flag. No powers, just peak human perfection and explosive discs that pop against Flaxan armor. And above them all, the Immortal, jet black hair, steel blue eyes, blue jumpsuit straining against biceps like cannonballs. He's punching through a tank. Warwoman stands beside him, club raised, screaming a battle cry that predates civilization. They're holding the line, but they're not winning. Until Mark moves. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't posture. He unleashes. The first Flaxan raises a rifle. Mark catches the barrel, crushes it. The alien's eyes go wide. Mark's palm strikes its throat. The crack echoes over the gunfire. The body drops. He spins, elbow to sternum. Catastrophic force. Ribs implode. He moves through the vanguard like a scythe through wheat. Faster, stronger, unstoppable. Red Rush zips past, carrying a wounded cop, and freezes. He sees it. Mark isn't incapacitating. He's executing. Neck snaps, skulls crushed under boots. Viltrumite strength applied with GDA precision. Clinical, lethal. The Flaxans aren't being defeated. They're being erased. Green Ghost phases up, horrified. Stop! We can contain them. Mark doesn't answer. He grabs a Flaxan by the antennae and drives it knee first into the pavement. The skull caves. He moves to the next, and the next. The Immortal lands in front of him. Heavy, hard, a wall of muscle and blue spandex. Stand down. We don't kill. Mark stops, turns. His eyes are dead, Flat. 17 years old, going on 1,000. Asset-01 doesn't have non-lethal protocols. Warwoman steps up, club dripping with alien ichor. There's a line between soldier and monster. Mark looks at the portal, the source, the glowing wound in reality. Your line is why you're losing. He launches, not at them, through them. The immortal reaches out, misses. Mark flies straight into the Flaxan vanguard, grabs the portal frame, metal screams, alarms blare from the alien tech. He pulls, superhuman strength meets dimensional engineering. The structure bends, twists, collapses inward. The tear in reality snaps shut with a sound like thunder. The remaining Flaxans flicker, trapped, cut off. Mark stands in the crater, chest heaving, not from exertion, from restraint. He looks at the dead, dozens of them, necks snapped, chests caved. He doesn't flinch, doesn't pray. He launches into the sky, gone. No debrief, no acknowledgement, just the sonic boom fading. Silence falls over the intersection. Red Rush sets down the last civilian. His hands are shaking. Not from speed, from what he witnessed. Green Ghost solidifies, clutching her stomach. Martian Man retracts his elastic limbs, staring at the crushed bodies. Black Samson's electricity fizzles out. Darkwing checks his explosives, but his eyes are on the sky. The Immortal stands in the center of the carnage, looks at Warwoman, looks at the others. Who was that? Warwoman wipes her club clean. Her hands are trembling too. Not a hero. The comms crackle. Cecil Stedman's voice, scarred jaw, silver hair, cold authority. Guardians, report. The Immortal punches the concrete wall. The stone cracks. He leans into the mic. Stedman, we need to talk about your weapon before he turns that efficiency on us. Drop a comment right now. How long until the Guardians try to stop Asset-01 themselves? And if you're not subscribed yet, you're gonna want to be for what comes next. Smash that like button if you got chills from that efficiency. He doesn't just win. He terminates every single threat. And Cecil Stedman? He's just getting started. The Guardians have spoken. Cecil Stedman listens. The scar across his jaw tightens as Warwoman's voice fades from the secure line. She's talking about brutality, about methods, about a 17-year-old boy who executes invaders like he's checking boxes on a ledger, who snapped Flaxan necks while the so-called heroes watched in horror. Cecil doesn't flinch. He already knows. Because Asset-01 isn't his son when the mask goes on. Asset-01 is the Global Defense Agency's answer to extinction-level events. The weapon raised from trauma, forged in GDA training facilities, unleashed only when diplomacy fails. And 2 weeks after the Chicago incident, after Mark physically tore that portal down with his bare hands and left the Guardians standing in ashen silence, the heroes are finally starting to understand what they've been protected by. But that's not why we're here today. We're here because something's coming from above. Something confused, something searching, and it's about to find exactly what it's looking for. High above Earth, higher than satellites, higher than the International Space Station, higher than hope itself. A figure hangs in the void, suspended against the backdrop of stars. Orange skin catches the solar glare, vibrant, unnatural, genetically engineered perfection. Muscular build, humanoid frame, diminutive pointed ears twitching against the vacuum. But the face is dominated by a single massive eye. White sclera, a tiny horizontal rectangle pupil that stands, searches, evaluates. Alan the Alien, Coalition Evaluation Officer, last son of a species nearly eradicated by the Viltrumite Empire. Born in Unipan breeding facilities to be a defense against monsters. Trained from birth to find the one being who can stop the conquerors. He raises his scanner. The Coalition device hums in his grip, seeking genetic markers, seeking power signatures, seeking Urath. But the coordinates are wrong. Confusion creases that solitary eye. His neural implant crackles with telepathic static as he tries to recalibrate. This isn't Urath, he mutters to the void. This is Earth. His ship's sensors scream, because something is rising. Fast, unstoppable. A blur of black tactical gear and Viltrumite velocity tearing through the mesosphere like a spear aimed directly at his heart. Alan has exactly 0.4 seconds to react. He doesn't make it. The impact isn't a punch, it's a statement. Asset 01 doesn't announce himself. He doesn't posture. He simply arrives, fist first, driving Alan through the thermosphere at max speeds. The atmosphere burns around them, but Asset 01 doesn't slow. 11 years of GDA combat training layered over Viltrumite physiology. Lethal efficiency, wrapped in superhuman durability. They hit the Arctic tundra. Ice explodes outward in a crater 50 meters wide. Shockwaves shatter ancient glaciers. Alan rolls, regenerative healing factor already knitting cracked ribs and burst organs, and looks up through the snow. The boy descends. Black hair with that distinctive widow's peak. Brown eyes colder than the permafrost. No bright costume, no heroic symbol, just a black GDA tactical suit and the absolute indifference of someone raised to end threats, not debate them. "You scanned my planet," Asset 01 says, voice flat, clinical, mechanical. "You don't scan without clearance." Alan pushes himself up. Superhuman strength surges through orange limbs, enough to lift tons, enough to fight Viltrumites. "I'm Alan, Coalition of Planets. I'm looking for a warrior to stop." He doesn't finish. Asset 01 is already inside his guard. A palm strike crushes Alan's larynx. A knee lifts into his solar plexus with enough force to bend steel. As Alan doubles over, an elbow, a precise GDA-taught killing blow, slams into the base of his skull. Alan tries to fly, tries to blast upward through the crater rim, but Asset 01 catches his ankle, swings him, once, twice, a humanoid wrecking ball. Alan rockets into a mountainside 3 miles away. Nigh invulnerability keeps him alive, but his vision swims. He heals in seconds, regenerative factor working overtime, but those seconds cost him everything. Because Asset 01 is already there, standing on his chest, one boot pressing against that massive single eye, grinding down with calculated pressure. "Who sent you?" Asset 01 asks. No anger, just interrogation. Alan gasps, healing finished, bones mending with audible cracks. "The Coalition. We need a Viltrumite killer, someone strong enough to stop the Empire." Asset 01 doesn't move, doesn't blink, just applies slightly more pressure. "Please," Alan chokes out. "I thought this was Urath. I didn't know Earth had you." The boot lifts. Asset 01 steps back. Lets Alan rise. The fight's over, and both of them know it. Alan's reactive adaptation might make him stronger eventually, might evolve him past this beating. But right now he's looking at a 17-year-old who just tactically dismantled a Coalition officer trained to fight Viltrumites in under 30 seconds. Alan stands, wipes orange blood from his mouth. "You're him," he breathes. "The hybrid. The son of—" "Don't." Mark Grayson steps back. The name matters now. The codename drops away like a weapon being holstered. This isn't combat. This is identity. This is the boy beneath the asset. "My name is Mark," he says, quieter, but somehow heavier, denser, and I know exactly what I am. Alan stares at him with that massive eye, really looks, sees the widow's peak, the build, the way he hovers without effort, inner ear balancing systems working automatically. "Viltrumite genetics," Alan says. "Your father killed my mother when I was 6, Mark interrupts. "I watched him do it. Watched the blood cover his hands. Then he left. Coward. Monster." He turns away, looks at the endless white horizon. "So don't tell me about the Viltrumite Empire. Don't tell me about conquest and glory and species dominance. I know what they are. I know what he was." Alan spreads his hands, placating. "The Empire destroys worlds, Mark. They eradicated my people. The Coalition needs someone who can stand against them. Someone with your power, your strength." "No." Mark turns back. His eyes aren't cold anymore. They're focused, laser-targeted. "I don't fight for the Coalition. I don't fight for glory. I fight because Cecil Stedman raised me to protect Earth. Because Asset 01 doesn't have non-lethal protocols." He steps closer. "Your Empire, your Viltrumite conquerors, If they come here, I'll stop them. Not because I'm one of them, but because I'm the thing they fear most. What's that? A weapon who doesn't want to rule, only to terminate. The GDA facility, underground, sterile white walls, and the hum of fluorescent lights that never turn off. Cecil Stedman stands by the reinforced window, looking at nothing, his scarred jaw working silently beneath the silver hair. Mark Grayson stands at attention, 3 feet behind him, not relaxed, never relaxed, even here, even with the only father he's known for 11 years. The alien's name is Alan, Mark reports, detached, professional, the asset speaking. UNOPAN, Coalition of Planets Evaluation Officer, genetically engineered for anti-Viltrumite warfare. He was seeking a warrior to oppose the Empire's expansion. Cecil nods, doesn't turn. And you told him? Nothing he didn't already know. Mark pauses. He mentioned the Viltrumite threat, their conquest protocols. He thinks I'm the answer to their prayers, the hybrid who can stop the genocide. Are you? Cecil asks, still not turning. Are you their answer? Mark meets the back of Cecil's head. I'm your answer. That's all. S1 is Earth's defense, not the Coalition's, not the galaxy's. Yours. Cecil turns. The scar seems to pulse in the harsh light. The Guardians called again. They're filing formal complaints, concerned about your methodology in Chicago. Methodology saves lives, Mark says. Theirs didn't. They hesitated. They talked. The Flaxans kept coming. He tilts his head, bird-like, calculating. I ended it. That may be true, but perception matters. You're 17, Mark. The world sees a child soldier. Mark's expression doesn't change, not a flicker. Then the world should be grateful their child soldier fights for them instead of against them. Silence stretches between them, father and son, director and asset. Alan is leaving, Cecil says finally. He wanted to thank you. I don't need thanks.
No, you don't.
Cecil steps closer, almost touches Mark's shoulder, stops. But you might need this. He holds out a file, Viltrumite Empire tactical data. Everything Alan shared. If they're coming. Mark takes the file. Doesn't open it. Let them come, he says. Space, cold and infinite, and indifferent. Alan straps into his Coalition vessel, his body healed, but his mind racing through neural implant calculations. He opens a channel. Telepathic transmission across light years, instant, silent. Coalition command, he transmits. This is Evaluation Officer Alan. Priority update on Earth assignment. Static, then the response in his mind. Report. Alan looks back at the blue planet through the viewport, at the boy who broke him without breaking a sweat, who rejected an empire, who chose to be a weapon instead of a conqueror. Earth has no hero, Alan says. Earth has a weapon, genetically modified, GDA raised, lethal beyond measure, effective beyond calculation. He hesitates, that single eye blinking. And he wants nothing to do with us. He rejects the Viltrumite heritage. He fights for Earth alone. Is he sufficient to stop the Empire? Alan's hand drifts to his ribs, still remembering the knee strike, the clinical precision, the absolute rejection of mercy. He's sufficient, Alan says, but he's not saving the galaxy for glory. He's saving Earth because it's programmed into him. And if the Viltrumites come looking for conquest, God help them, because he won't. The transmission ends. Alan engages thrusters. Earth shrinks to a dot, then a pixel, then nothing. And somewhere below, in a sterile GDA facility, S1 watches the stars through reinforced glass, not waiting for rescue, not hoping for backup, just calculating trajectories, threat vectors, kill zones, always calculating, always ready.
1 week, 7 days, since that orange alien vanished into the void, leaving Mark Grayson with a galaxy's worth of warning echoing in his skull. The Viltrumites are coming. An empire of conquest, of death. And Mark? He's been training, harder than ever. But he doesn't know that today, the battlefield changes. Today, he meets someone who sees the world differently.
someone who doesn't bend the knee to the Global Defense Agency. Her name is Atom Eve. Downtown, midday. Chaos erupts like a bomb. Two figures, identical, massive, blue skin stretched over muscle that shouldn't exist. Shaved heads, black leotards with that stark white M screaming across their chests. The Mauler twins. They're tearing through a reinforced vault like it's paper. Concrete explodes, civilians scream. One twin lifts an armored truck overhead, just hoists it into the air like a toy, and hurls it through a skyscraper window. Glass rains down. Destruction. Pure, unfiltered destruction. And then, pink light cuts through the smoke. She descends like a falling star. Red hair, green eyes blazing, that form-fitting pink suit with the atomic symbol burning bright on her chest. Atom Eve. She doesn't wait. She doesn't hesitate. She raises her hand and the Mauler's next missile, a chunk of rebar the size of a tree trunk, transmutes mid-air, turns to petals. Pink petals that drift down over the chaos. She's not GDA. She's not military. She's independent. And she is precise. But she's not alone. The sky cracks. A blur of blue and yellow drops from orbit. No, not drops. Slams. Invincible. S1 hits the pavement hard enough to crater the asphalt. The shockwave shatters windows for 3 blocks. He doesn't float. He doesn't pose. He moves. Mark Grayson, 17 years old and already a weapon beyond measure, courtesy of Cecil's training. He doesn't see the artistry in Eve's transmutation. He sees a threat that needs elimination. The Mauler twins roar. They charge. One swings a fist the size of a wrecking ball. Mark catches it, stops it cold. Then he twists. Bone snaps. The twin screams. Mark drives his knee into the alien's gut. Once, twice, then spins him like a discus and launches him into the side of a building. Concrete dust explodes. The structure groans. Eve throws up an energy construct, a wall of solid pink light. But Mark is already past it. He's inside the second twin's guard. Elbow to the jaw, palm strike to the sternum. The GDA didn't teach him to pull punches. They taught him to end fights. He slams the twin's head into the pavement. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood paints the concrete blue. The Mauler goes limp. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Atom Eve lands beside him, her boots touching down on pink energy that dissipates like mist. She looks at the crater, the collapsed wall, the shattered street. Then she looks at him. Really looks. Invincible, right? Her voice is steady, but there's fire underneath. You almost brought that building down on those civilians. You shattered 3 load-bearing walls. Mark wipes blue blood from his knuckles. Doesn't look at her. S1 neutralizes threats. Collateral damage is calculated. Acceptable. Acceptable? She steps closer. The atomic symbol on her chest seems to glow brighter with her anger. There's a difference between stopping criminals and demolishing a city block. Who trained you? The GDA? Now he looks at her. His eyes are cold, focused. You don't understand what's coming. The threats I face, they don't care about your rules, about your precision. And you don't care about the people living here? She gestures at the dust, the wreckage. I transmuted that debris into mist. You punched through it. What if someone had been inside? Mark's jaw tightens. Then there would be casualties of war, acceptable losses. The words hang there. Poisonous. Wrong. Eve shakes her head. You're not a hero, you're a weapon. And weapons, they break things. They don't save them. Before Mark can respond, before he can process the sting of that accusation, his earpiece crackles. Cecil's voice, calm, authoritative, unmistakable. S1, return to base immediately. We have a situation. Mark touches the comm. Copy. He looks at Eve one last time. Stay out of GDA business. You won't like what happens if you interfere. Then he's gone. A sonic boom as he breaks atmosphere, leaving her standing in the crater of his making. Atom Eve watches him vanish into the clouds. Her hands clench into fists. Pink energy sparks between her fingers. S1, she whispers. Let's see what the Global Defense Agency is hiding. 3 hours later, GDA headquarters, sublevel 12. Mark stands at attention before Cecil's desk. The scar across the director's jaw catches the fluorescent light. His silver hair is immaculate. His eyes are drilling into Mark with that familiar, calculating weight. "You were reckless today," Cecil says. Not angry, assessing. The Wilkins girl is asking questions. She's accessing restricted databases, looking for you. She's a civilian with powers, a variable. Should I neutralize the threat? Cecil leans back. No, not yet. She's useful. But I need you to understand something, Mark. You're not just a soldier. You're my son. And that girl? She sees something in you that I need to control. The independent heroes are gathering, watching. They don't trust the GDA. Should I care? Mark says. Cecil smiles, thin, sharp. You should, because if she finds out what you really are, what Nolan was, what you could become, she might try to stop you. And I don't want to have to kill her. Mark's fists clench at his sides. The image of Debbie flashes. Blood on the floor. His mother's eyes. The trauma that made him. I'll handle it, Mark says. You always do. Cecil taps his desk. Dismissed, but across the city, in a small apartment lit only by the glow of multiple monitors, Samantha Eve Wilkins, Atom Eve, stares at a file she shouldn't have found. Her fingers tremble. The screen glows with classified GDA data. Photos of a 6-year-old boy standing over a body. Blood everywhere. Training records that read like war crimes. And a designation that chills her to the bone. Project Asset 01. Mark Grayson. Viltrumite human hybrid. Threat level. Extinction. She leans back. Her heart pounds. She thought he was just another government thug. But this is something else. Something terrifying. And you know what happens next? She's going to find him. She's going to confront him. And when she does, the truth about what Mark Grayson really is, the monster he's been trained to become, it's going to shatter everything. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Atom Eve can save him from himself? Or is Mark too far gone? Smash that like button if you got chills from that file reveal. And subscribe, because next chapter... 3 days. That's all it took for the past to come knocking. Nolan Grayson descends through the atmosphere like a falling star. But there's no fanfare, no triumphant return. Just a man who ran from his sins, coming back to face the wreckage he left behind. He lands outside the Global Defense Agency facility with enough force to crack the asphalt. The man who once called himself Omni-Man. The murderer who buried his wife with his own 2 hands. Cecil Stedman waits at the entrance, silver hair catching the moonlight. That distinctive scar running across his jaw like a warning label. Eyes that have seen every possible nightmare this world can conjure. He doesn't flinch when the ground trembles beneath Nolan's boots. He doesn't reach for a weapon, because against something like this, weapons don't matter. Only will. You're not welcome here, Cecil says. His voice is quiet, controlled. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm that tears cities apart. Nolan steps forward. The white and grey uniform he abandoned years ago is gone. He wears simple earth clothes now. A man trying to be something he forgot how to be. I came for Mark. You lost that right 11 years ago. Cecil corrects him, and the word lands like a slap. Now he's Asset 01, the most effective weapon this planet has ever produced. And you're just the ghost that made him. The trauma that forged him. The tension here is thick enough to choke on. This isn't a hero meeting his handler. This is a father confronting the man who stole his son and turned him into something unrecognizable. He's not the boy you remember, Cecil warns. His eyes narrow. I made sure of that. The sky tears open. Mark Grayson drops from the clouds. 17 years old. Shoulders broader than they should be at that age. Packed with muscle, forged by GDA enhancement protocols, and Viltrumite genetics pushed to their absolute limit. He doesn't run to his father. He doesn't cry. He lands with military precision 10 feet away, his boots clicking against the concrete in perfect synchronicity. The tactical gear hugs his frame, black and grey, utilitarian, bristling with tech augmentations at his wrists and spine. No colourful costume, no symbol of hope, just efficiency. Nolan's face cracks. Horror, pure unadulterated horror washes over him like a wave. He sees it, the weapon, the thing he created in his moment of weakness, standing before him in the shape of his child. The eyes are the worst. Brown, like his mother's, but empty. Cold. Calculating. The name barely makes it out of Nolan's throat. S1, Mark corrects. His voice is flat, mechanical. The voice of someone who has compartmentalized every emotion into a box labeled irrelevant. Identify yourself and state your business. Nolan reaches out a hand. It trembles. I'm your father. You killed my mother. Mark doesn't blink. He doesn't step back. He states it as fact, as data, as a mission parameter. You don't get to be my father. You don't get to be anything. It explodes. Nolan moves first. Viltrumite speed, a blur of muscle and rage and desperate regret. He closes the distance in a heartbeat, reaching to grab Mark by the shoulders, to shake him, to hold him, and somehow make the boy he remembers come back from wherever he's buried. Mark doesn't flinch. He sidesteps with perfect GDA combat training, years of Cecil's drilling, of muscle memory etched into his hybrid physiology. He drives an elbow into Nolan's ribs with a crack that echoes across the compound. Reinforced with tech, amplified with Viltrumite strength. The sound is wet. Nolan staggers. He wasn't ready. He expected anger. He expected tears. He didn't expect efficiency. Mark unleashes. This isn't a boy throwing a tantrum. This is a weapon unleashing devastation with clinical precision. He spins, delivering a roundhouse kick that catches Nolan's jaw and sends the older Viltrumite crashing through the facility wall. Concrete explodes. Steel bends like paper. Mark follows, his flight leaving a sonic boom in his wake. They clash above the city. Nolan tries to recover. Tries to use centuries of combat experience, the techniques that conquered worlds. He throws a punch that could shatter a mountain. Mark blocks it. Not with strength alone. With angles. With physics. He redirects the force, twists Nolan's wrist, and drives a knee into his father's sternum. You trained him well, Nolan snarls down at Cecil, who watches from the crater below, his face illuminated by the chaos above. I trained him to survive monsters, Cecil replies, his voice carrying on the wind. I trained him so he'd never be helpless again. Nolan roars. Raw, primal. He charges, full Viltrumite assault. Fists blur into a storm of devastation. He stops holding back. He can't afford to. Mark meets him head-on. He doesn't just fight. He dismantles. He uses the environment, the buildings, the power lines, the very air itself. He grabs Nolan by the cape and uses his father's momentum to hurl him into a water tower. The metal ruptures. Thousands of gallons crash down. Mark doesn't wait for the water to clear. He drives through it, fists first, catching Nolan in the stomach and then the chin, a 1-2 combination that would have killed any human instantly. They ascend, higher, through clouds, through the atmosphere, into the void where biplane froze solid, where the silence is absolute, and the stars burn cold. You left, Mark says, his voice carrying even in the vacuum, vibrating through the molecules between them. You ran. Nolan's eyes widen. Blood floats from his split lip in crimson globules. Mark can survive space. Of course he can. But the cold doesn't touch Mark's expression. The void in his eyes is worse than the void around them. Emptier. I was weak, Nolan admits. His voice cracks. I was wrong. Yes. Mark's fist connects with Nolan's jaw, an uppercut that sends the older Viltrumite spinning end over end. And I had to become strong because of it. I had to become what you feared, what you couldn't control. They crash back to Earth. A crater forms 50 feet wide. Dust settles in slow motion, the particles hanging in the air like they're afraid to touch what lies below. Nolan lies broken, not dead. Mark knows exactly how much damage a Viltrumite can take. Bones knitting already, blood pooling in the dirt. Mark could end him. The training taught him how. Pressure points in the neck. The precise amount of force to apply to the brainstem before regeneration can't keep up. Mark stands over him, the sun behind his head like a halo, casting his face in shadow. But there's no mercy here, only resolution. Only the cold certainty of a choice made years ago in a kitchen filled with blood. I should end you, Mark says. His voice is quiet now, clinical. For what you did to her. For what you made me become. For every night I woke up screaming and reached for a weapon instead of a blanket. Nolan coughs blood. It sprays across his chin. Then do it. If that's what you need, do it. Mark steps back. He holsters the tech at his wrists. No. He looks down at the man who gave him life and then tried to take everything else. You're already dead to me. You died the moment you chose your empire over us, over me, over the boy who loved you. Nolan reaches out a trembling hand. Mark, please. Don't. The word cuts like a blade through bone. My name is S1-2. And if I ever see you again, if you ever come back to this planet thinking you can claim what you threw away. He leans down, close enough that Nolan can see the emptiness where his childhood used to live. I won't hesitate. There will be no crater, just ash. Mark turns. He walks away, leaves his father bleeding in the dirt, leaves the past screaming in the crater. He doesn't look back. Why would he? The dead don't get second chances. He returns to Cecil. The handler waits at the facility entrance with a towel, with medical supplies, with that look in his eyes that says he knew exactly how this would end. And he's proud of the restraint shown, even as he mourns the cost of it. Next assignment? Mark asks. No emotion, no tremor in his voice. Just the soldier. Cecil nods, placing a hand on Mark's shoulder. The touch of a father who chose to stay. We've got a situation in Paris. Viltrumite energy signature. Possible scout. Mark adjusts his gear. The blood on his knuckles isn't his own. Then let's move. He walks into the facility. The doors close behind him. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Nolan deserved that mercy? Or should Mark have finished the job and ended the threat permanently? Smash that like button if that father-son battle hit different, and subscribe, because next chapter, the Viltrumite Empire finally locates their lost soldier. And trust me, when they see what Earth's done to Nolan's son, they're not going to send an envoy. We begin in silence, not the quiet of a peaceful home, but the sterile, soundproofed hum of the Global Defense Agency. Deep beneath the earth, in a room of polished steel and cold blue light, stands a young man, 17 years old, black hair, widow's peak, a lean, powerful frame built not for high school football, but for war. This is Mark Grayson, and he is waiting for his father. A man steps out of the shadows, middle-aged, with shoulder-length silver hair and a suit as sharp as his gaze. A jagged scar carves a story across his left jaw. This is Cecil Stedman, director of the GDA, the man who found a broken 6-year-old boy in a house of blood and forged him into a weapon. Mark, Cecil's voice is calm, measured. It's the voice that has guided Mark his entire life. We have a situation. On the holographic display, an image appears. A woman, tall with short black hair, tan skin, and striking blue eyes. She wears the unmistakable uniform of the Viltrum Empire. Her name is Anissa, Cecil states, his tone clinical. She made landfall over Paris 30 minutes ago. She hasn't made a move, but we know why she's here. She's a scout, a prelude. Mark's eyes are locked on the image. No fear, no surprise. Just analysis. Cecil continues. This is not a negotiation. It's not a conversation. Your father, Nolan, he tried to talk. He tried to reason. We know how that ended. This is a threat elimination protocol, Mark. You will engage. You will neutralize. Is that understood? Mark simply nods. He doesn't call him Dad here. Not when the mission is on the table. Here he is S1, and Cecil is his handler. It's the only way this works. The only way he's survived. Cecil places a hand on his shoulder. For just a second, the director is gone. It's just a father. Be smart, be fast, come home. The sky over Paris is a brilliant blue, a perfect day. Tourists mill around the Eiffel Tower, unaware of the god descending from the heavens. Anissa floats, arms crossed, an expression of supreme confidence on her face. She is a Viltrumite warrior, the strongest of their women. She is here to check on Nolan's progress, to assess this world for assimilation. She expects a report, a welcome. She does not expect the sonic boom that shatters windows for 3 blocks. He arrives like a thunderclap, a blur of yellow, blue, and black. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't posture. He doesn't speak. S1 crashes into her with the force of a meteor strike. The impact sends a shockwave rippling through the air, buckling the iron lattice of the tower beneath them. Anissa is driven back, shock registering on her face for the first time in centuries. This is a Viltrumite, a hybrid, but the power is undeniable. But this strength, it's raw, unfiltered, savage. He's on her again before she can recover. His fists are hammers, but there's something more. A high-frequency hum emanates from his gloves. It's a targeted sonic assault, designed for one purpose: to scramble the complex balancing system in a Viltrumite's inner ear. Her flight becomes unstable. Her senses swim. "Who are you?" she snarls, landing a solid right hook that sends him careening into a Parisian rooftop, shattering clay tiles and splintering timbers. He rises from the dust, unfazed. He just wipes a trickle of blood from his lip. He doesn't answer. He just attacks. Faster, stronger. He's not fighting like a warrior. He's fighting like a terminator. Every blow is aimed at a weak point. Every move is calculated for maximum damage. This isn't a duel. It's an execution. He drives her down, street level. Cars become projectiles. Cobblestone streets crack and splinter under their devastating exchange. Anissa is powerful, legendary, but she's caught off guard by this relentless, brutal efficiency. This boy fights with no honor, no code, only the mission. A streak of red, white, and blue hits the ground between them. The immortal. His face is a mask of fury, not at the alien invader, but at the destruction. "Enough!" he roars, his ancient eyes blazing. Behind him, the rest of the Guardians of the Globe descend. And with them, a flash of pink energy. Atom Eve throws up a translucent shield, catching a bus that Mark had just thrown, saving a dozen civilians from being crushed. "What are you doing?" Eve screams at him, her voice laced with horror. "You're going to level the city." Mark doesn't even look at her. His eyes are locked on his target.
"Stay out of this," he says, his voice a low growl. "This is a GDA operation." The Immortal steps forward. "We are the Guardians of the Globe. Protecting this city is our operation, and right now you're as much of a threat as she is." This is the moment. The hesitation. Anissa sees it. An opening. She lunges, not at Mark, but at the heroes. At the civilians. Chaos is her shield. But Mark is faster. He intercepts her, grabbing her by the throat and slamming her through the wall of a 5-story building. The entire structure groans, threatening to collapse. Eve is already moving, her pink constructs wrapping around the building, trying to hold it together. "Mark, stop. People will die." He doesn't listen. He pummels Anissa, blow after devastating blow. He is going to finish this. He is going to follow his orders. But the intervention has cost him. It cost him momentum. It cost him the element of surprise. Anissa, bloodied and breathing hard, sees her chance. With a final desperate burst of strength, she shoves him back, creating just enough space. Her eyes burn with a mixture of fury and confusion. This world wasn't supposed to have a defender like this savage. She doesn't say a word. She just turns and flees, a silver streak rocketing into the upper atmosphere, gone. She is wounded. She is humiliated. And she will be back. Mark watches her go, his body tense, ready to give chase. But a voice crackles in his ear. Cecil's voice. "Asset-01, stand down. The order is crisp, final. The target has retreated. Mission objective has been met. Return to base." Slowly, painfully, Mark unclenches his fists. He stands amidst the wreckage, the dust settling around him. The cries of the injured fill the air. The Guardians are staring at him, not as an ally, but as a monster. The Immortal floats down, his expression grim.
He taps his comlink, his voice echoing in the GDA control room, hundreds of miles away. "Cecil," he says, his voice dangerously low. "We need to talk. About your boy." A pause hangs in the air, thick with unspoken accusation. "He's not a hero, Cecil. He's a weapon of mass destruction. You just pointed at a major city. You tell me, what's the difference between him and the Viltrumite who just fled? From where I'm standing, there isn't one. You've raised a bigger threat." The political fallout from Paris is a storm. But some storms are cover. A chance to move unseen in the chaos. And deep in a hidden sub-basement, a different kind of storm is brewing. Here, there are no governments, no heroes, only ambition. Before a machine of impossible geometry stands a tall, slender man. His name is Angstrom Levy. He is flanked by giants, blue-skinned, impossibly muscled, identical down to the last scowl. The Mauler twins. One of them grunts, a sound like grinding stones. The energy fluctuations are unprecedented. "Are you certain this is wise?" Angstrom doesn't turn. His eyes are fixed on the shimmering portal at the heart of his creation. "Wisdom," he says, his voice calm, precise, "is the entire point. You think I built this just to peek through windows at other worlds? No, this machine will unify. It will take the consciousness of every Angstrom Levy across every reality and pour their knowledge, their experience, into me." He finally looks at them, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. "I will not just study the multiverse. I will contain it." The other Mauler scoffs. "A god complex. How original." "Not a god." Angstrom smiles. "Something better. Something certain." He straightens his shirt, takes a final breath of this singular reality, and steps onto the platform. The air crackles around him. He is a scientist at the precipice of his life's work. He gives a simple nod. "Begin." The Mauler twins share a look, a shrug. They were paid for engineering, not philosophy. They throw the master switch. The machine whines to life. Light bends, sound distorts. Energy fields, pure and white, envelop Angstrom Levy as his mind begins to unspool, reaching out across the infinite, ready to become more. Miles away, in the cold, sterile quiet of the GDA command center, a new order is given. Cecil Stedman's voice is flat, devoid of emotion, a simple directive for his greatest asset. Signal Intelligence has flagged component purchases consistent with a Mauler Twins weapons program. You know the protocol, Asset 01. Terminate the operation. Extreme prejudice. For Mark Grayson, this is just another Tuesday, another target, another mission. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't need context. He is a guided missile, and his trajectory is set. Back in the lab, the procedure hits its peak. The hum becomes a roar. Angstrom's consciousness is everywhere at once. He sees 1,000 Earths, 1,000,000 choices, 1,000,000,000 lifetimes playing out in a single glorious instant. He is expanding. He is becoming more. The back wall of the lab does not open. It does not buckle. It ceases to exist. A concussive blast of concrete and steel tears through the room. Standing in the jagged hole, silhouetted against the dust-choked light, is a figure in black tactical gear. Asset 01. He sees 2 blue giants. He sees the mission. He moves, faster than thought. The first Mauler twin doesn't even have time to raise its fists before Mark is on him, a brutal, driving punch that caves in its chest. The second twin swings a piece of industrial machinery like a club. Mark ducks under it, his motion a fluid, devastating dance. He pivots, unleashing a follow-through blow, a haymaker meant to shatter the second Mauler's skull and end the fight. But the twin stumbles back, and the punch, carrying the force of a meteor, misses its mark. It connects instead with the central sync coil of the dimensional synthesis machine. There is a sound, not an explosion, a rupture, a shriek of tearing reality. The brilliant white light around Angstrom turns a sickening, bloody red. The synthesis doesn't complete. It fractures. The connection to 1,000,000,000 realities doesn't close. It shatters, and the feedback loop reverses. 1,000,000,000 alternate lives are crammed back into Angstrom's skull. But not his lives. The lives of the boy who just broke his machine. Raw, jagged, unfinished memories. Memories of a Mark Grayson who joined his father. A Mark who slaughtered heroes, A Mark who burned worlds, a billion versions of a monster, each one screaming, clawing, fighting for space inside one man's head. His body convulses, his skull distends, the skin stretching, tearing, as his brain swells with an agony beyond comprehension. He is being remade, not into a transcendent genius, but into a living map of infinite hate. Mark sees the second mauler go down. He glances at the sparking, dying machine. He registers the spasming figure inside. His internal calculus is cold, efficient, non-combatant civilian, neutralized by machine malfunction. Mission complete. He turns, and he walks out. The sound of his boots on the concrete floor is the last thing Angstrom Levy hears before the pain swallows him whole. Mark Grayson doesn't know it. He doesn't even care. But he did not just walk out of a lab. He walked out of his own grave, having just handed the shovel to the man who will dig it. While the city's emergency services and GDA assets are stretched thin, dealing with the fallout in Paris, someone else sees an opportunity. In a darkened room, illuminated only by the glow of a monitor, Eve Wilkins works. Her fingers fly across the keyboard. The chaos is her cover. The GDA's diverted attention is her open door. She moves through layers of digital security. Firewalls crumble. Encryption algorithms untangle. She isn't looking for mission reports or weapon specs. She's hunting for something far more dangerous. The truth. She's looking for the file on S1-2. She needs to know what Cecil did to the boy she once knew, what he turned Mark into. Finally, she hits it. The last wall. A Citadel-level encryption, keyed directly to Cecil Stedman's personal biometric signature. Unbreakable for anyone else. But Eve finds a crack, an old diagnostic port, a forgotten backdoor from a system upgrade years ago. She slips through, and the file opens. The unredacted file. It's all there. Everything, starting from age 6. It's not a training regimen. It's a psychological blueprint. Systematic desensitization protocols, empathy suppression exercises, logged and graded. A curated media diet designed to reinforce loyalty to the GDA and normalize lethal force. Behavioral reports tracking the gradual decline of emotional response. She sees a child's crayon drawings of a woman with black hair, filed right next to reports of its first kill simulation. She sees a program designed not to train a hero, but to carefully, methodically, piece by painstaking piece, erase a human being. Her worst fears were a pale imitation of this cold, calculated reality. Cecil didn't raise a son, he forged a weapon, and he used a dead mother's memory as the hammer. In another secret lab, a GDA cleanup lab, his body has stopped its grotesque transformation. He pushes himself up, his limbs shaking, and forces himself to look at a polished metal panel on the wall. He sees his reflection. His head is no longer human. It is a swollen, grotesque mass of exposed cerebral tissue, crisscrossed with thick, pulsing veins and scar tissue, a monument to fractured infinity. He remembers the bootsteps, the casual, dismissive departure of the boy in black, the boy who walked into his ascension and tore it to pieces without a second thought. The memories scream in his head, 1,000 marks, 1,000,000 atrocities. But through the cacophony, one crystal-clear thought emerges, spoken in a voice that is his, and yet a billion others. It's not about the multiverse anymore. It's not about Invincible, the abstract threat. It's about Mark Grayson, and the vengeance he is about to unleash will be personal. It will be specific, and it will be absolute. Weeks have passed since the man called Angstrom Levy clawed his way back from oblivion. His vow of vengeance echoes in the silence between dimensions, a promise waiting to be kept. But the cosmos does not wait. While one monster licks his wounds, another threat begins to stir, and a new hope travels between the stars. Deep in the void, where solar winds whisper against the hull of a lone vessel, a report is being made. The ship belongs to an evaluator, a survivor, a unipan of large muscular build and orange skin with a single prominent eye that has seen the rise and fall of 1,000 worlds. His name is Alan, and he is speaking, not with his mouth, but with his mind, his thoughts beamed across light years to a council of the coalition of planets. His mental voice is calm, strategic, but underneath there is an urgency that could boil oceans. The intel was correct, Alan projects. Earth possesses a warrior of Viltrumite-level power. But there is a complication, a severe one. He pauses, letting the weight of his words settle in the minds of the council members light years away. He is not an independent hero. He is an asset, a weapon, wholly controlled by a terrestrial organization called the Global Defense Agency, and its director, a man named Cecil Stedman. Images flash through the telepathic link. A boy in a yellow and blue suit, moving with brutal, devastating efficiency. A city street, left in ruins. The cold, scarred face of Cecil Stedman, watching from the shadows. This Invincible is their sword, Alan continues, and they are pointing him at any threat they see fit. He is not a potential ally. He is a controlled deterrent, a dog on a very short leash. If we approach him, we approach Stedman, and that is a game we cannot win on his terms. A wave of concern washes back from the council. Then Earth is a lost cause? No, Alan's thought is sharp, decisive. The GDA is not the only power on Earth. There are others, heroes who operate outside of Stedman's control. The ones who tried to intervene when the GDA's weapon was unleashed on the Viltrumite scout. They are fractured, leaderless, but they have power, and they have conviction. They are our hope. I am altering my mission. I will make contact not with Earth's weapon, but with its heart. The thin air of the Himalayas whips around two figures standing on a desolate peak. One is a man who has seen empires turn to dust, tall with jet black hair and steel blue eyes that hold the weight of centuries. He is the immortal. Beside him, a young woman glows with a soft pink energy, her red hair a splash of fire against the snow and rock. Atom Eve. They are waiting. A ship descends from the clouds, silent as a ghost. It doesn't roar, it simply arrives. A ramp lowers, and out walks Alan the alien. He raises a hand, palm open, a universal sign of peace. The immortal's arms are crossed, worn smooth by time. You're a long way from home. My home is gone, Alan says, his single eye meeting the immortal's gaze without fear. The Viltrumites saw to that. The same people who sent Omni-Man to your world. The same blood that flows through the veins of the GDA's champion, Invincible. Atom Eve takes a step forward, the pink energy around her hands solidifying slightly. We know who he is. What do you want? To offer you a choice, Alan says, his tone shifting from diplomacy to raw truth. Your world is a focal point in a war you don't even know you're fighting. The Viltri Empire is a plague that has consumed galaxies. My people, the coalition of planets, have been fighting them for generations. We are losing. Omni-Man wasn't a scout. He was the first wave. His son, he is the GDA's answer, a Viltrumite to fight Viltrumites. But what happens when that weapon is turned on you? When his master decides you are the threat? Who holds the leash then? He lets the question hang in the freezing air. The coalition doesn't want to control Earth. We want to empower it. We want to give you the resources, the intelligence, the support to stand as a free planet. To create a line of defense that doesn't answer to one man in a bunker. An alliance. A real one. The immortal looks at Eve. He has fought beside gods and monsters, led armies, and died more times than he can count. He recognizes a precipice when he sees one. This alien isn't just offering help. He's offering a rebellion. Miles below, in the sterile, silent darkness of the Pentagon's deepest level, two figures watch the meeting on a screen the size of a wall. The satellite feed is crystal clear. Cecil Stedman leans back in his chair, a faint, unimpressed smile playing on his lips. Beside him stands Mark Grayson, his GDA uniform a stark contrast to the casual suit Cecil wears. A Unipan, Cecil mutters, more to himself than to Mark. Haven't seen one of them in this sector for years. Bold. He takes a sip of his coffee. He's pitching them an alliance, trying to build his own little super team to act as a check against us. Mark says nothing. His eyes are fixed on the screen. Not on the towering immortal or the one-eyed alien. His focus is entirely on the girl glowing with pink light. Atom Eve. He's seen her file. Samantha Eve Wilkins. Powers categorized as transmutation, energy manipulation. Classified as a rogue element. Independent. Dangerous. But on the screen he doesn't see a rogue element. He sees conviction. He sees a power that isn't ordered or directed, but simply is. It flows from her, effortless and bright. He is a guided missile, a precision instrument of force, honed for 11 years by the best training and technology the world has to offer. She is wild, uncontained. Don't worry about them, Mark, Cecil says, noticing his focus. They're irrelevant, a ghost from a bygone era, and a girl who can make flowers grow. When the Viltrumites show up for round 2, who do you think the world is going to look to? The committee or the cannon? Cecil gestures to Mark. Mark doesn't look away from the screen. He watches Eve as she listens to Alan, her expression intense, her power a quiet storm held in check. He feels a strange curiosity, a pull towards something he doesn't understand, a question he didn't even know he had. Back on the mountain, the wind howls. The Immortal has heard enough. He has seen the GDA's methods. He has seen the brutal calculus they employ. He has seen their weapon in action. Alan is right. Power cannot go unchecked, not even their own. He uncrosses his arms and extends a hand to the alien. The Guardians of the Globe were founded to protect this world from all threats, the Immortal declares, his voice booming with the authority of ages. That includes the ones who claim to be its saviors. Alan takes the offered hand. The grip is firm, an agreement sealed not in a boardroom, but in the moment that will define history. But, on the roof of the world, you want an ally on Earth who doesn't answer to a black site, the Immortal says, a fire returning to his ancient eyes. Congratulations, you just found one. And just like that, the game has changed. The pieces are reset. On one side of the board, the Global Defense Agency and its unstoppable living weapon, and on the other, a new alliance is forged, a coalition of worlds and heroes ready to fight for freedom. A shadow war has just begun, and caught in the middle is a world that has no idea it's become the ultimate prize.
In the cold, silent dark between stars, a ghost sits on a throne of dead rock. This is what's left of Nolan Grayson. Not Omni-Man, not the Viltrumite conqueror, just a man hollowed out by his own hands. The scars crisscrossing his chest and face, souvenirs from his son's rage, are nothing. They are pale imitations of the wound inside him, the one that bleeds guilt, the one that screams a name he can never say again. Debbie. He came here to die, to let the vacuum of space and the slow decay of time erase him. An end he chose, an end he deserved. But Viltrum does not grant men like him the dignity of choice. A tear in reality, a flash of impossible speed, a ship brutal and grey hangs in the void above him. Its design is unmistakable, a predator, a cage. He doesn't even flinch. He's been waiting. A hatch hisses open. Figures descend, clad in the stark white and grey of the Empire. They land without a sound, surrounding him. Their leader steps forward, posture rigid with authority. The order is given, cold and final. Surrender. And Nolan, he does. He rises slowly, every movement an act of immense weariness. He offers his hands. There is no fight, no defiance. The legendary strength, the power that could shatter worlds, is dormant. Because in his mind, this isn't a capture, this is justice. The cold metal of Viltrumite shackles clicks around his wrists. It feels like an absolution, a fitting end to a story that should have ended a decade ago, in a quiet suburban home with the life he destroyed. Aboard the prison ship, the air is stale with recycled oxygen and indifference. Nolan is chained to a bulkhead, a relic on display. His eyes are closed, but he hears everything. Two guards, their voices dripping with the casual cruelty of bored soldiers, are talking. They talk about a report from a scout named Anissa, a mission to the backwater planet Nolan once called home. They talk about a hybrid, a weapon, an asset that not only fought a pure-blooded Viltrumite to a standstill, but beat her, broke her, sent her running back to the Empire with a warning. Nolan's jaw tightens. He knows. He knows the hybrid's name. He knows the cold fury in his eyes.
He put it there. He felt that power firsthand when it shattered his bones and his pride. This is old news, the echo of his greatest failure. But then, one of the guards laughs, a dry, humorless sound. He says Anissa's report did more than just raise alarms. It changed the entire equation. Earth wasn't just a failed outpost anymore. It was a threat, a rogue state, a weapons factory capable of producing a creature that could challenge the Empire. And you know what the Empire does with threats? The second guard speaks, his voice low, almost a whisper. High Command has authorized it, a full punitive fleet. They're not going to conquer it. They're going to sterilize it, turn the whole planet to glass. The words hit Nolan harder than any punch Mark ever threw. Sterilize it. He opens his eyes. The cold, dead calm shatters. A fire, banked for years under a mountain of grief, roars back to life. He thought leaving was a mercy. He thought his self-exile, his banishment by his own son, would protect the boy. That it would sever the connection, keep Viltrum's gaze away from Earth. He was wrong. So wrong. His departure didn't save Mark. It painted a target on his back. A target the size of a planet. He didn't save his son. He left him alone to face an apocalypse that Nolan himself had caused. The guilt is still there, but now it has a purpose. The shackles around his wrists suddenly feel fragile. The guards, sensing the shift in the air, turn toward his cell. The weariness in Nolan's posture is gone, replaced by something terrible. One of the guards reaches for his sidearm, a fatal mistake. The sound isn't metal bending, it's an explosion. Nolan doesn't break his restraints, he obliterates them. Shrapnel tears through the air. He moves, a blur of motion, faster than they can process. The first guard is a red smear against the wall before the second can even scream. Nolan doesn't pause. He doesn't hesitate. This isn't a fight for survival. This is a race against time. The cell door isn't an obstacle. It's a suggestion. He punches straight through the reinforced alloy, his fist tearing a hole in the ship's interior. Alarms blare. Red lights flash. The entire ship lurches as he carves a path forward. He tears through bulkheads like they're paper. He moves with the brutal efficiency of a man with nothing left to lose and only one thing left to do. He is not going back to be a father. That right was forfeited in a storm of blood and rage. Mark made his choice. A bullet to the head if he ever returned. So be it. He is not going back to reclaim his son. He is going back to warn him, to warn Cecil, to give them a chance, however small. He crashes onto the bridge. The flight crew turns, their faces masks of terror. Nolan ignores them. His eyes lock onto the star charts displayed on the main view screen. He finds the coordinates. He finds the path. He is going back to stand between his son and the Viltrumite Empire. He is going back to die holding the line. Far away in the sterile quiet of the Global Defense Agency's deepest command bunker, a single technician watches a screen. He's been watching it for 12 hours straight. It's a deep space sensor array, designed to detect the unique energy signature of a Viltrumite vessel. For over a decade, it has been silent, until now. A single insistent ping echoes in the silence. The technician leans forward. His blood runs cold. On the screen, a red icon appears at the edge of the solar system. It's moving. Fast. An intercept course with Earth. And below it, a calculation flickers to life. ETA. 3 days. 3 days. For 3 days, the Global Defense Agency has held its breath. Deep beneath the Pentagon, in the silent, sterile heart of Earth's defense, every screen shows the same thing. An empty patch of space. A silent void where a ghost is expected. Cecil Stedman stands before the primary monitor wall, the cold blue light reflecting off the scar on his jaw. He hasn't slept. Not really. He exists on coffee, adrenaline, and a decade of single-minded preparation. The entire facility is a weapon aimed at the sky. Every satellite, every energy cannon, every dirty little trick in Cecil's playbook is pointed outward, waiting for the telltale energy signature of a Viltrumite arrival, waiting for Nolan. In his quarters, a reinforced bunker that has been his home for 11 years, Mark Grayson feels it too. A low hum in the air, a tension that feels like the moment before a lightning strike. He clenches his fists, the knuckles white. Cecil's words echo in his mind. He's coming. Everything we've done, it's all for this day. You are ready. And while the world holds its breath, watching the front door, someone is already inside. He doesn't use doors. He doesn't trip alarms. He simply arrives. In a sub-level designated for hazardous containment, place where the GDA keeps its worst mistakes locked away, the air rips open. A shimmering, fractured tear in reality appears for less than a second. Angstrom Levy steps through. His grotesquely enlarged brain pulses with quiet, meticulous thought. He looks at the rows of reinforced cells, at the things sleeping inside, and he smiles, a thin, cruel crack in his face. He doesn't need to fight them. He just needs to open the doors. A portal opens inside the cell of a failed bioweapon, a writhing mass of tentacles and teeth. The creature, startled, lashes out and shatters its own containment unit from the inside. Alarms finally scream to life. Red lights flash. But it's too late. Angstrom is already gone, another portal blinking him into existence in the primary server corridor. He places a small device on the central conduit. It hums, and every internal security protocol in the most secure building on Earth begins to cannibalize itself. Doors slam shut, trapping agents. Fire suppression systems fill hallways with suffocating foam. Automated turrets, designed to repel invaders, swivel and open fire on GDA personnel. The fortress is turning on itself. Cecil's perfect weapon is committing suicide. Up in his bunker, the world explodes. The lights flicker and die, replaced by the emergency red. A voice, cold and robotic, echoes from the walls. Asset 01, containment protocol initiated. Stand down. The walls of Mark's room slide away, revealing laser grids and sonic cannons. Defenses he's trained against his entire life. But they've never been set to kill. Mark doesn't hesitate. He doesn't think. He tears through the first laser grid. The beams sear his suit, but his skin holds. He smashes through a phalanx of combat androids, ripping them apart like tin cans. He is a force of nature, a living missile aimed at one target, Cecil. He crashes through a wall into a main concourse. It's chaos. Agents are pinned down by their own turrets. In the middle of it all, a flash of pink. Atom Eve is there, a shimmering energy shield protecting a group of terrified technicians. She's creating ramps for them to escape, reinforcing a collapsing ceiling. She's saving lives. Mark sees her for a fraction of a second. Her focus is on the people, the collateral damage. His focus is on the mission. Get to Cecil. He doesn't stop. He doesn't divert. He simply plows forward, a shockwave of destruction in his wake. He is a weapon, and weapons don't worry about acceptable losses. But the image of her, a shield against the storm he is creating, sticks in his mind. A splinter of an idea he can't yet comprehend. He blasts through the final reinforced door to the command center, and freezes. The room is a wreck. Consoles spark and hiss. The main view screen is cracked, showing 1,000 fractured images of an empty sky. And on the floor, leaning against the command chair, is Cecil Stedman. There's a dark stain spreading across his pristine white shirt. His face is pale, his breathing ragged. He's been shot. And standing over him, calm amidst the carnage, is Angstrom Levy. You built a monster to protect your world, Angstrom says, his voice a low, intellectual rasp. His massive brain seems to throb in the dying light. But you never considered the monsters already inside it. For the first time in a decade, Mark Grayson sees the man who raised him as vulnerable. Not the unshakable director of the GDA. Not the master strategist. Just Cecil. His father, hurt, on the ground. And something inside him breaks. The cold, controlled rage he's honed for years evaporates, replaced by a volcanic, primal fury. It's the same feeling he had when he was 6 years old, standing in his mother's blood. Pure, undiluted protectiveness. He doesn't scream a name. He doesn't make a threat. He lets out a roar, a sound that isn't human. It's the sound of a Viltrumite unleashed. Angstrom turns, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "He took everything from me," he starts to say. "Now I take." He never finishes. Mark crosses the room in less than a heartbeat. This isn't a punch. It's an impact. An extinction-level event in the form of a tackle. He drives his shoulder into Angstrom's chest with all the power, all the grief, all the rage of a boy who has lost 2 parents. The impact doesn't just shatter the far wall of the command center. As Mark makes contact, Angstrom smiles. A shimmering portal, a vortex of impossible colors, rips open directly behind him. They don't just crash through the wall, they crash through reality. A blinding flash of light, a deafening crack of displaced air. And then, silence. They're gone. Cecil Stedman, bleeding on the floor of his ruined kingdom, stares at the gaping hole in the world where his son, his weapon, his last hope, just vanished. There is no sound. Only the feeling of being torn apart and put back together 1,000 times a second. One moment, Mark Grayson is tackling Astron Levy through the wall of the GDA command center. The next, he is everywhere and nowhere. Colors that have no names scream past him. Physics becomes a suggestion, then a lie. He and Levy are locked together, a 2-man hurricane tumbling through the raw guts of reality. They crash, not onto a floor, but into a world. A sky of bruised purple hangs over a jungle of screaming, flesh-eating flora. The very air is thick, wet, and hungry. Angstrom shoves Mark off, scrambling back. "You have no idea what you've done," he shrieks, his voice thin against the alien howl of the jungle. Mark gets to his feet. GDA training protocol flashes in his mind. Assess, adapt, eliminate. The ground beneath him is soft, pulsing, like the floor of a lung. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't analyze. He attacks. He moves like a blur of focused rage, a living missile honed by a decade of simulated hells. Angstrom rips open a portal, a shimmering tear in the world, and dives through. Mark is right behind him. They land in a desert of black glass under a dying crimson sun. Before Angstrom can even get his bearings, Mark is on him. The ground shatters under the force of the first punch. It's not a fight. It's an execution. Angstrom screams, tearing another hole in space, a desperate escape. They fall into a city made of bone, inhabited by shadows that flit at the edge of vision. Angstrom tries to use the dimension itself as a weapon, opening a portal right in front of Mark's charging fist. Mark's arm disappears into the void and reappears 100 feet above, slamming down into the street. But the GDA trained him for disorientation. He yanks his arm back, using the momentum to spin, his other fist catching Angstrom square in the jaw. The sound is like a tree splitting in a thunderstorm. Faster, stronger, more ruthless. That's the difference. This is not the boy who chose the name Invincible in a moment of hopeful optimism. This is Asset 01, a scalpel forged to cut the heart out of any threat to the planet. And Angstrom Levy? He just threatened the man who holds the leash. Another portal, a world of endless, freezing ocean. Angstrom gasps, the cold shocking his system. Mark doesn't feel it. He grabs Angstrom by his mutated head and holds him under the crushing black water. Bubbles stream from Angstrom's mouth. Portals flicker and die around them as his concentration breaks. Mark holds him there. 5 seconds. 10. He's not just fighting the man. He's breaking his will. He's showing him that no reality, no dimension, no corner of the multiverse can hide him. He yanks him out of the water, gasping, and throws him through another random portal. They land on a world of silence, a barren grey rock floating in a starless void. Nothing ever will. The dust doesn't even move. Angstrom Levy collapses, a broken heap of flesh and ambition. He's spitting blood, his body a roadmap of bruises that are already turning a deep, horrific black. He looks up at Mark, his eyes wide with terror. He had seen 100 evil Invincibles, 1,000 tyrants wearing that suit, but he had never seen this. This cold, efficient, devastating rage. "Please," Angstrom whispers, the sound swallowed by the absolute silence. Mark stands over him. His suit is torn, his knuckles are bleeding, but his breathing is steady. His eyes are like chips of ice. He remembers Cecil, bleeding on the floor, the man who took him in, the man who gave him a purpose when his world ended. And all that rage, all that desperation from the fight, it cools, it hardens into something else. Something colder. He reaches down, not to help, but to grab the front of Angstrom's shirt. He lifts him up. Their faces inches apart. "You wanted to hurt me," Mark says, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You wanted to show me pain." He looks around at the dead world, at the endless, empty nothing. "This is my pain. This is the world my father left me in. Now, it's yours." He drops Angstrom to the ground. He turns his back. Levy, desperate, tries to summon one last portal, his fingers twitching, trying to tear open reality. But he's too broken, too tired. Nothing happens. Mark focuses. He remembers the specific vibrational frequency of his home dimension. A GDA mental exercise. He channels all his energy, all his will, into a single point in front of him. Reality groans. It resists. Then with a sound like tearing silk, a shimmering blue tear appears. Home. He steps through without a second look back, leaving Angstrom Levy to the silence. The transition is violent. He stumbles out of the portal and falls to his knees, not on a dead world, but in the heart of his own ruined home. The GDA command center is a war zone. The air is thick with smoke and the smell of burnt wiring. Emergency lights strobe across the debris, casting long, dancing shadows. Agents are shouting. Medics are rushing past. Mark's head snaps up, searching. His eyes scan the chaos until they find him. Cecil. He's on a stretcher, surrounded by a medical team. His face is pale, covered in a sheen of sweat. An oxygen mask is strapped to his head. His eyes are closed. A medic is barking orders, applying a high-tech coagulant to a deep wound in his side. They're stabilizing him. For now. Mark gets to his feet, walking slowly towards the scene. It feels like wading through water. The agents, the soldiers, they all stop what they're doing. They part for him. Their weapon. Their champion. But he doesn't see them. He only sees Cecil. Unconscious. Vulnerable. For the first time since he was 6 years old, Mark Grayson is alone. There are no orders, no mission parameters crackling in his ear. The voice that has guided his every move for 11 years is silent. The man who raised him, who turned a traumatized boy into a planetary defense system, is down. And in that moment, Mark feels the weight of it all. The fight, the dimensions, the rage, it all comes crashing down, leaving him feeling hollow, empty. Then a new sound cuts through the noise. It's not the frantic damage control alarm, it's a different siren, a deeper, more resonant tone that makes the blood run cold. A sound Mark has only ever heard in simulations. Red lights flash across the main view screen, which is miraculously still intact. Text scrolls across it in block letters. Viltrumite signature detected. Orbital entry. Imminent. A technician, his face white as a sheet, looks up from his console. "Sir, S1-2, it's him." Mark slowly turns from Cecil's stretcher and looks up at the screen. A single powerful biosignature, blazing a trail through the upper atmosphere, faster than anything they've ever tracked. He doesn't need the computer to tell him who it is. He can feel it. A cold dread that has lived in the back of his mind since childhood. A memory of blood on a white kitchen floor. He walks towards the gaping hole in the ceiling of the command center, the one he and Angstrom created just minutes ago. He steps over rubble and shattered steel, his eyes fixed on the sky. Through the smoke and the dust, he sees it, a streak of fire descending from the heavens. It's not a target, it's not a hostile. It's the reason he exists. The monster in his nightmares made real. Nolan Grayson has come home.